Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 7 series of professional StarCraft 2. Now spotting right here in the upper left, playing in red, we have the world's #1 Terran who goes by the name of Maru, and apparently he starts off this game by sending an SCV out onto the map. His opponent playing with the blue Protoss species. We have none other than Classic. This particular series is a Team League match. Maru, of course, representing ONSYDE. On his team will be Krystianer, Ryung, and Zoun as well. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing them moving forward in this best of 7. Classic is part of team the 3 Musketeers. I'm not exactly sure why that's their name. So it's actually spelled Musketeer. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyways, he is part together with, or he's part of a team together with HeroMarine and ShoWTimE. So a 3-man team going up against a 5-man team. But apparently Maru wants to get these games over with very, very quickly. Now, in case you're unfamiliar, this is from the WardiTV Team League, Season 10. It's currently ongoing, and I've been absolutely loving it. Because not only are we going to have a look at some 1v1, we are also going to have a look at some 2v2, which is an absolute blast. Some of the pro gamers, though, definitely want to get the games over with a little bit quicker than the others. Classic usually really enjoys playing the macro games. In this particular instance, he will, well, at the very least scout out that something fishy is going on the other side of the map, as there is a whole lot of nothing inside of the main base of the Terran. Are we just going to go double marauder? Is that the plan? Are we just going to proxy as many marauders as possible and then we just YOLO forward and hope for the best? It is a build order that usually, it can work, right? Like, it's usually very powerful. It's just also something that we don't see as frequently anymore these days because Protoss players have gotten much better at defending it. It also will come down, though, to the very first time that these units will clash. And Classic right now will know that something fishy is happening. He hasn't quite seen yet, yeah, if there are any proxies on his side of the map, but he did already notice the lack of quite literally anything inside of the main base of the Terran, and now he's gonna spot the very first marauder. No shield battery on the low ground. He's making one right over here on the high ground instead. Can obviously just use the Nexus as like a gigantic meat shield for now. Concussive shells has only just been fired up. Maru not opting to go for a bunker. That is something he could choose to do, but instead he's just adding another supply depot at home to prevent the Protoss from running in a little bit later on into the game. I would imagine we cancel. Do we cancel or not? Yeah, we do cancel. Okay. And that ultimately was pretty sweet, because Classic did buy himself, like, what, 30 seconds or so? Just from that alone. Concussive shells are so risky, though. As soon as these Terran units will get their passive slow attack, right? It just makes the entire escaping on these stalkers especially so much harder. So, more gateways coming up. We have a little bit of a contain, I suppose, happening right now. Ooh, nice snipe. A little contain happening right outside of the Protoss' main base. One barracks is flying on over in this direction to provide high ground vision. Maru needs to move it ever so slightly closer. Yep, so that way he can start working on the opponent's cyber core. Keep in mind, in order to make stalkers, you do need to have a cybernetics core out onto the map. Lucky here for Classic, it's looking like warp gates will finish up. Just to make sure, though, that it does, he goes for a chrono boost. I think it would have been fine either way, but getting the warp gate research finished here is absolutely massive. In the meantime, though, since there's no expansion for the Protoss, Maru has decided to just continue macroing at home as well. We have now essentially turned this into like a one-base play from both players, right? Like, that's the only thing we're doing. There is a single prism out right here, and the prism is incredibly nice. With good micro, you can technically snipe all of these Protoss, or all of these Terran units rather, before they can really deal any true damage. Yeah, great control here so far by Classic, keeping all of the troops alive. And while the cyber core may have died, we have a new one finishing up already. Oh, we're gonna go across the map, Classic? We turn this into a base race? New stalkers are gonna be warped in. We do get the shield battery right now to heal up that pylon for a little bit longer. We can maybe retarget it and then you recharge it. Okay, nicely done. Prism in the meantime has indeed arrived on the other side of the map, and this Terran main base is wide open. Excellent defense here so far by Classic, it needs to be said. Ultimately, yep, the stalkers will have to go back, but the ones that are on the other side may just be enough to finish the game. Wow, actually pretty much a perfect game here for Classic. I don't think he really could have hoped for much more. He does lose a Zealot here, fair enough. He may lose another Stalker. But I just do not see how Maru is going to be able to clean all of these Protoss units up. The Three Musketeers, TMM. Seems to me that they will be able to obtain the victory here in the very first game of this best of 7. How many units did he actually lose? Yeah, it's just a Zealot, a Stalker, and a Cybercore. That's pretty nuts. Okay, make it 2. Maybe make it 4. It doesn't matter. Because at this point, Maru, I mean, you may as well fly your command center to the corner of the map. Because at this point, Maru, there's absolutely nothing you're going to be able to do. What is Maru? Why is Maru still in this game, actually? Hold up right now. What is happening here? Maru, how are you? Do you actually think you got a chance? GG. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on 10,000 feet. Spawning right here in the bottom right, we have none other than the biggest of Gapes, HeroMarine, and his opponent, representing ONSYDE, we have Krystianer. Another Terran versus Protoss, but this time around, both players, yeah, are keeping their workers inside of their main bases. All right, fair enough. I wonder if Maru was actually a little bit frustrated there, because that's just one of those build orders that I feel like is kind of shaky, to say the least. And then obviously, I mean, I'm never a big fan of players leaving too early, but Maru is certainly stuck in that game a little bit longer than we usually expect Terrans to go ahead and do so. I mean, really, the next step was for him to lift off with his command center and fly it to the corner of the map, which is a very popular strategy in Bronze League. Maybe you can do it in Silver League as well, because it's going to force your opponent to make a flying unit. Unseen, though, at the pro level. But honestly, that defense there from Classic was, yeah, flawless. Right? I mean, yeah, sure, he did lose a couple of things here and there, but it is impossible, really, to win a game without losing anything. And he made the Marauder cheese look pretty pathetic. I guess that's a good reason as to why we don't really see that build anymore. Because even though it was unscouted, and even though, yeah, Classic didn't really know exactly what he was playing against, he still held that absolutely perfectly. It's going to be a Reaper start right here. No surprise there. Cybercore in the meantime, after the Nexus. Maybe a little bit greedy by Krystianer. Not opting to go for the Probe Scout. Obviously, that was the key for Classic, right? Being able to scout out what the opponent was roughly doing really was important. He will be going for the pylon on the low ground, though, a little bit quicker. And eventually, he should be able to get these defensive units out against the Reaper. It's going to be a Reaper into a Marine. And we'll probably see a straight Stalker or straight Adept here in just a moment from the Protoss. Yep. Everything is very normal. Twilight Council immediately on the back of this as well, so that's going to allow him to immediately go into the Blink research. Let's see what the Reaper can find out. HeroMarine mostly just paying attention to see if there's anything weird going on. Yeah, okay. He knows that about 227 or so, that Stalker will spawn. He didn't see an Adept. So, knowing very well that the Stalker will be out soon, you may as well escape with the Reaper. Really no reason to lose it for, yeah, no real gain. You're not going to be able to really kill a probe anyways. So you may as well move out with the Reaper. Go back in for some follow-up scouts a little bit later on. And upon seeing the Stalker, he actually decides to just immediately plot down a third command center too. So that's already 2 more command centers than Maru made in that previous game. Second barracks as well. So we'll probably have a triple Rex start here for HeroMarine. Effectively just defending, there it is, with Mass Marine. Men with gun, very good units in general. But the men with guns indeed are going to be coming out in large numbers. Now this is a nice build, but it is one that can sometimes just bite you in the butt. Because with really good micro, Blink Stalker can just deal so much damage, right? If you have, like say Krystianer here goes for like a 4-gate Blink Stalker push. Not the case so far. He's adding on a Robo Facility right now, so he will be up to 3 gateways here in total. But if he warps in 4 gateways, Mass Stalkers, a Prism, and then Blink, I mean, we could see a very similar game as the previous one. In the sense that Protoss can technically go for a push that, yeah, just requires the Terran player to make all of the lucky choices. Because Protoss really just can micro that type of army, yeah, from the start to the very finish of the game. Like, you can technically win the game without losing a single unit. Krystianer, though, is going to blindly just plant down a third base. This is the most common build, I think, right now in Protoss versus Terran. It's just solid against pretty much everything that Terran has. Krystianer is fond of the build. He does this all the time. Stimp together with combat shields. We will see some marauders coming. But really, until Stimpack is out, Terran's quite vulnerable. And obviously, Blink at this point is already done. So there's a lot of potential here for Krystianer to go across the map. But he's not really taking any chances. He sees the bunker right now. Keep in mind that he doesn't know what he's playing against. So he's got stalkers set up in, yeah, key locations. Or at the very least, he had. He moved them away again when he realized that this wasn't going to be a really quick benchy opener or something along those lines. We have double observer as well, though. Just to be safe. And straight now into a robotics bay as well. +1 infantry attacks will be fired up here momentarily for HeroMarine. Who's quite a way... HeroMarine has been quite vocal lately about his current opinion, let's say, on Protoss versus Terran. He does not like this matchup at all. I actually don't know if... maybe that's not entirely correct. I think most of his complaints were... Like, he had some Twitch clips that were posted on the StarCraft 2 subreddit. I think most of his complaints were the fact that the amount of Protoss players that he faces on the ladder is just kind of ridiculous. Now, he's been making similar arguments, though, for many years now. But he doesn't really want to play in a whole lot of tournaments right now because it's just Protoss after Protoss after Protoss after Protoss. Until you ultimately hit someone like Clem. Or maybe you go up against a hero, or, you know, a Cure, or a Bjorn, or, you know, you max packs of... Like, you play one of the top dogs, and it's all PvP, before, I guess, against Protoss from his point of view, so TVP, right? Up until that point. Anyways, here we go. This is still a nice little opener, though, for HeroMarine, who can actually just go after the Nexus. I wonder if he could have sniped it already. This is just men with guns. Wait a second. Men with guns may be really good. Yeah, he's gonna sack the units. There's no Medivacs. This is a crazy little attack here from HeroMarine. There's no Medivacs available, so he's really just trying to make the best of the situation, sacking the units, getting the Immortal as well. And while all of the Terran units will die ultimately, there's already so many reinforcements available for HeroMarine in the meantime. All right. Yeah, a safety bunker. I don't disagree. He salvaged the one in the natural. Kind of a crazy push there for HeroMarine. He didn't really know exactly what was out there, but he knew he had to take some chances. And now suddenly this is a massive uphill battle for Krystianer. He didn't really lose a lot of probes, so that's something. But yeah, the Nexus going down is very, very annoying. Protoss is generally speaking supposed to be a base up on the Terran in this matchup. And right now he's experiencing the exact opposite. Yeah, okay, well, he decides to just plant down a 4th Nexus. Cross his fingers, cross his toes, hope the Terran doesn't attack. I guess there's 10,000 feet on this map, so at least there's a lot of toes that you can cross, theoretically. Although I guess HeroMarine is playing, or HeroMarine versus Krystianer is likely playing on the EU server, so... I guess the map is called 3,000 meters, give or take. Not nearly as many toes in that one. Yeah, and right now this is kind of one of those relatively awkward games, right? Where Krystianer isn't quite in a spot where he can really leave. But also, what do you do to try and win? Because it's just such an uphill battle. Effectively what we're waiting for, and HeroMarine is moving out right now, but we're basically waiting for HeroMarine to go for his next push. He's got himself a large army. Marine Marauder Medevac Mine. Only units that start with M. That's nice, I suppose. He doesn't yet have a second starport out, but I think he doesn't even really need it. He really wants to get that Colossus, though. This is actually kind of a messy push from HeroMarine. Yeah, a lot of damage going onto the Colossus. A lot of damage going onto the Nexus as well. And that really was about the best case scenario for Krystianer. Not really losing anything really important there. So if you look at the army size, I mean, it's still pretty atrocious for Krystianer, but at the very least, he gets another fighting chance. He's going double research right now in the fort. Kind of crazy. Colossi, in the meantime, distracted, though, by a bunch of Widow Mines, and right now may just be what HeroMarine is looking for. With the first Colossus going down, the second Colossus also falls right after it, and that means nothing really remains. So HeroMarine with a very greedy opener, and then a YOLO push through the center of the map without any medevacs. He's gonna get the second point on the board for TMM. Okay, and that takes us to the map Yellow Jacket. Our first 2v2 of the day. I always like watching 2v2, man. It's so much fun. And generally speaking, ONSYDE is considered to be one of the highest ranked teams in all of StarCraft 2. But so far, they're getting wrecked. Yeah, it kind of felt to me like Maru wasn't really taking the first game too serious. And then Krystianer making a little bit of a slip up there in the second game as well. Or I guess HeroMarine took some gambles and they ended up working out. And that means that suddenly you find yourself with a 2-0 advantage against one of the, very best teams in the game. So, Yellow Jacket. In blue over here, we have HeroMarine yet again, joined by Classic. 2 winners so far in their respective games. And then on the other side of the map, we once more have Krystianer. Making his debut today, we have none other than Ryung. One of the oldest StarCraft 2 competitors. Fun fact. Let me look at exactly how old he is. Brace yourselves, okay? You ready? He was born in 1991. He actually is turning 35 April 16th. Ay, ay, ay. Crazy. That's crazy. You know, what's actually kind of funny, early on when I first started watching StarCraft 2 myself, a lot of people were saying that the physical limitations for StarCraft 2 would be met when you are like 26 years old, maybe 27. That was kind of the upper limit. Mostly because StarCraft used to be very Korea focused, and it turns out that the Koreans have to start up their military service by the time that they are, well, in their late 20s usually, so like 27 seems to be the main cutoff point. That happened to be the time that the pro gamers retired, right? And then usually when they're done with their military service, which takes like a year and a half, some of them would try to come back, but they would never really be able to go back to their previous level. And a lot of people, because of that, decided that apparently late 20s, that is the absolute oldest age at which you can still be a StarCraft player and compete at a high level. I think we're learning right now that that is not quite the case anymore. Even the 30-plus-year-old pro gamers can still compete with the youngsters out there. I mean, it's kind of a silly statement anyways, but... yeah, Ryung, definitely a little bit older. Ryung always gets along very well with Maru. Seems like the running joke for many years now is that Ryung is the one that comes up with the strategies, and then Maru wins the tournaments. So Maru looks at what Ryung does, and... oh, sorry, I gotta be... lag, me too, I'm fine. My ping, okay, I think. Mine iOS going down, 1 sec. Ready, go, go. All right. Usually it's Ryung coming up with the builds and then Maru perfecting them. They're gonna go for a little bit of a push right now, though. TMM this is. The 3 Musketeers. HeroMarine together with Classic. And this is one of the nice things. When you play Terran and Protoss, you do have these really nice, nimble units available early. Actually, now that I say that, I don't think there's a single Zerg on ONSYDE. Yeah, and the same can be said for, TMM here. HeroMarine, Classic, and ShoWTimE. No Zergs. So that means no Zergs today at all. No smelly bugs. Let's go. All right, let's see. 2 Adepts want to get into the main base. It's important here for Ryung to raise the depot, or not. It's actually kind of problematic. Yeah, now you're suddenly dealing with a bunch of those units inside of the main base. Still, though, Marines are chasing it, and luckily here, this is the Terran's base. The Terran's base is obviously one that will take an extra shot for those Adepts to kill a worker from, so we are going to see the Oracle move around. Also, though, getting pushed around quite a bit. It's a very aggressive start here for Team Blue. But they're not really achieving that much. I'm a bit surprised that we did see the Stargate here, but Classic is not doubling down with any sort of Phoenix play. Usually Phoenixes are just so popular in 2v2. At least that's what we've been seeing over the last year. 2v2 really seems to be where Phoenixes shine, but apparently not what the players have been focusing on lately. Huh. And you know what? When behind, Dark Shrine. That is the oldest adage in StarCraft. My grandma always told me when I was little, still growing up, that went behind Dark Shrine, little Lowko, and it's still true. You know what? Maybe the oracles can finally really salvage this situation. I don't really like it, man. Nah. How much have they actually killed? It's 10 probes. Krystianer did lose 10 probes, which is a lot, but if we look at the actual worker count, it's totally fine. Right? And at this point, we're gonna see Ryung getting that mule mining going. He is very comfortable. Third command center is nearly done. I think actually in team games, Dark Shrines are worse. Mostly because the odds of at least one of the opponent's players having some sort of detection out are basically 100%. I mean, Ryung will have scans available, as long as he doesn't drop mules all the freaking time, but there should be some form of detection here. Now, so far, for Team Red, there is none. We do not have any missile turrets, no photon cannons, no observers. So, there might actually be a chance for Dark Templar to get some real work done. I'm assuming that this gateway over here in the upper section of the map is where the Dark Templar will be warped in from. Dark Shrine is now finished. Yep, and the invisible men are gonna go in. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Play the Imperial March. Da, 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 da. Okay, sorry. Did I notice a little blur? Did I notice a little blur? It's one of the downsides when you play at 1 million APM. Okay, yeah, he noticed it. He noticed it. You do see the warning symbol right there from Ryung, but it might already be a little bit too late. A robo facility will start up, but it's a bit too late for that too. There are 3 of them, right? So I think one of them already did get scanned. Potentially the second one is gone too. No, we actually still have all 3 of them available. One of them is working away at a siege tank. The other one is inside of the main base. And you know what? I don't disagree. Add another one in the mix, man. Not all heroes wear capes, but these guys do. Wow. I was just saying how I kind of feel like Dark Templar and 2v2 are shaky, but turns out I'm wrong. It's a lot of damage being done here. The only form of detection, it seems, that Team Red has is scans. And it turns out that Ryung has indeed been enjoying the mules quite a bit. Oh no, this is unlucky. No, Classic! Classic not quite paying attention there. Probably busy looking at other things. Okay, and that suddenly means that HeroMarine and Classic are certainly back in this match. He's just warping them in single file, man. One at a time. Finally, guys, we will have a missile turret. Yeah, maybe let the siege tanks kill each other. There you go. Ooh. Oh, no, not quite. Not quite going to... Oh, all right. I really quite like how clumsy 2v2 is sometimes as well, man. 1v1 is so refined, but then 2v2 is just 4 guys trying their absolute hardest. Massive marine drop over here, though, from HeroMarine. Obviously, they're still in kind of a weird spot, because the early game did not really go their way, and this is now him single-handedly pushing into 2 armies. I don't really know if I love it. Yeah, Krystianer may be weak, but he still has Blinky Boys, and Blinky Boys are nice. They do not quite get one of the full medevacs. More and more Stalkers as well, though, from Classic at the front lines, as he's just trying to get rid of units wherever he can. HeroMarine, though, really is the solid backbone in this game so far. Keep in mind that you can share resources as well in 2v2. So if Classic really needs to get some cash, HeroMarine should be able to give it to him. Storm is coming here for Classic as well. He decides to go for a push, though, before that is even available. There are a bunch of siege tanks. My god, HeroMarine, where are you? I can almost hear the Discord voice chat here. HeroMarine, like, no, brother, what are you doing? Why are you blinking into all of the tanks? He was a little late to the party, but ultimately they both arrived. And this expansion here will be denied. Classic actually throwing away so many units. It's okay, though. It's okay. Because look at the minimap. Krystianer and Ryung are in a world of trouble. Yeah, they just do not have really the economy to sustain this sort of thing. And right now there's storms available too. There are not really that many great units here for Team Red that need storming. But it's still better than nothing. Now this is a nice little blink here from Krystianer. Storm onto Stalkers, not something you see all too often. In the meantime though, HeroMarine going for another big Doom drop straight into the main base here. And that causes Ryung to tap out, Krystianer to tap out. And that means we've got ourselves a 3-0 lead for TMM. Okay, and that takes us to the map White Rabbit. Bottom left hand corner, a man we have not seen today just yet. We're looking inside of the main base of ShoWTimE, representing TMM, currently at match point. All the way in the opposite corner of the map, one of the world's best Protosses for ONSYDE, we have Zoun. What are you doing, little probe? What are you thinking of, huh, buddy? Ah, okay. Yeah, I could see that smug smile on your face. I knew you were not up to anything good. So Zoun will be picking up on this. Now, this is one of the tricky things about PvP, right? So you have a scouting worker inside of your opponent's base, and you count pylons. Zoun's looking around right now. He knows that there is a second pylon out there somewhere, but he doesn't see it anywhere. This is the exact problem, though, that you run into, rather, in Protoss versus Protoss. Because you know that your opponent has a pylon out, and your opponent also knows that you know that there's supposed to be a second pylon. So sometimes, you would imagine it's a cheese, right? But sometimes, and actually very frequently, we see Protoss players just planting down a second pylon anywhere on the map, just to throw the opponent off. Now, in this particular instance, ShoWTimE is actually proxying a robo facility, but Zoun, even though he technically figured it out, doesn't really have confirmation of it. And this is also one of those, like, pretty lackluster locations, right? Like, yeah, it's a proxy robo, but it's a proxy robo somewhat in the middle of the map. Like, it's not particularly close to Zoun's side of the map. Either way, though, Zoun is just making a load of units for the time being, not really committing to an expansion just yet. A couple of Stalkers here actually may accidentally stumble upon it. ShoWTimE thinking the same thing here, decides to move those adepts further down south just to make sure that the robo facility is not seen. And Zoun, well, he's looked at this side of the map, he's looked at this path over here as well, but he did not quite check in the middle. Shield battery here to prevent the adepts from shading into the base. Cancels it yet again, goes for a couple sentries instead. Nexus on the low ground does fire up. Robo facility inside of the main base of Zoun 2. Are we gonna go Prism on the back of this, or do we just... Yeah, we just keep pumping out the Immortals? It's going to be a Prism instead. This is problematic for Zoun. Yep, losing a Stalker like that is big. There's no Blink or anything available, but that is still -2 Stalkers. And suddenly, ShoWTimE can start laying down the law on the other side of the map. Especially when the Prism is out, all of these units are gonna have, well, their own individual Blink. Right, at least assuming you micro it correctly, you can get so much damage done with this. Zoun really wants to keep a hold of that Nexus. He really wants to keep it alive. For now, he doesn't really have a very easy army, to contest this with. I think indeed canceling it is the right choice. I don't know if he had a glimpse of the Prism there, but he now knows that this is very committed. Although, when the Nexus now is cancelled, do you just expend on your own side of the map, ShoWTimE? Because breaking open the main base is going to be tough. You will test the waters, though. Obviously, the force field will slow things down, but I think this is mostly just the player in blue trying to maximize the damage. I don't think he can really truly believe he will be able to break open that main base, but you may as well test the waters, because the Prism is just so nice. I think he did have a glimpse just now of the Immortal. Yep. No, we're going to warp in a couple sentries here, too. Sure. Actually, 1 sentry, and then 1 adept. That's another gateway going down. Nice micro here by ShoWTimE. So tempting to just try and YOLO up the ramp, right? But that is certainly not the best way forward, although it's always tempting. Stargate right now as well for ShoWTimE. All on 1 base. 2 prisms, or 2 Immortals rather, in 1 prism. Keep in mind that these units are real expensive. You cannot drop units off in the dead space. Both players have a tremendous amount of micro potential here. Wow, and ShoWTimE really feels like he can indeed break all of this open. Ooh, nice force field. And this is mostly just this shade over here, just to get Zoun's army to back off for a little bit. An extra gateway coming up right now. Stargate is done. ShoWTimE keeps on shading up towards the high ground, but there's no way he's actually going to be committing when he sees the entire red army chase. Yeah, it's a Phoenix here, so mostly just to get rid of the opponent's prism in case it decides to be a little adventurous and go across the map. You know what? This may actually be the perfect idea right here for ShoWTimE, who's now expanding as well. Just keeping the Phoenix right-clicked onto the prism. Even though there's a couple Stalkers in here, it takes the Stalkers quite a while to actually kill a Phoenix. It's gonna put so much pressure onto this type of drop. One Immortal available here. It's just gonna settle, it seems, for the pylon kill. He will be able to get it. But if hypothetically this prism goes down with all the units inside of it, it is almost the equivalent of losing the game. Excellent setup right now, though, for our German Protoss. Hammergeil, as they say in Germany. Nobody actually says that anymore. Affengeil, as they say in Germany. Everybody says that. Genau. They say that a lot, actually. Yeah, maybe Affengeil and Hammergeil, not so much anymore. But genau? Oof. It's up there. Great word. You know my favorite German word? Schmetterling. Schmetterling is it sounds like an actual Zerg unit. It's actually just a German word for butterfly. Genau. Alright, anyways, let's see. The robo facility may be unpowered. And Zoun may have been, in a lot of trouble previously, but he's now gonna hallucinate a bunch of Immortals. Try to move in. Well, you do have to get a move on, though, Zoun, if you actually want to commit. Obviously, the idea behind the Phoenixes here is not just the prism, but also to lift up the Immortals. And at this point, he doesn't know which Immortals are real. So if the energy is going to be wasted on the hallucinated Immortals, that would be problematic. ShoWTimE really trying to keep an eye out on which one is real, which one isn't. But at this point, he can't really tell. There is an Observer available. He would love to make an Observer, ShoWTimE that is, but there is, yeah, no power on that robo facility in the middle of the map. Zoun is actually kind of... I mean, I don't want to call this all in, because he is expanding behind it. He doesn't really have to push deep here, but it feels to me like he is ready to just throw units at the wall. In this instance, the actual Mauer. He can't do it, though. Like, if he does... I mean, there's 3 shield batteries and just a tremendous amount of troops. I think if he attacks here, it's game over. Nice walling yet again by ShoWTimE, as is to be expected. But I think we may have to walk of... Yeah, we may have to make the walk of shame, dude. I think we gotta back off. Yeah. We shade forward while we walk back. There's now also enough Phoenixes to just kind of make the jump and kill the prism. Blink coming up here for Zoun. Yep. And he decides to retreat. Okay, now is it okay to retreat in a game like StarCraft? Or is it cowardly? Personally, I'm very bad at retreating in strategy games, I will say. Never been good at it. The odds of me throwing my units at the wall there, probably about 80%. ShoWTimE will be able to execute some of the cowards that decided to commit with the shade, fair enough. Allowing the main army to make its way back home. Yeah, ShoWTimE actually playing a really lovely game so far. I mean, the margins are still small. But I like what he's doing better than actually pretty much everything here that Zoun is doing. There is that blink advantage that Zoun has. Quite big. But I just don't really see what he can do with the army. Unless ShoWTimE decides to move across the map himself. That makes it very dangerous. He's making a second robo facility, by the way. Because the main one obviously got destroyed. Third Nexus as well on the back of this, though. So he's not really fully committing to this push. Hallucinated Phoenix has got to check out roughly what's happening on the other side of the map. Both players just always keeping the opponent on their toes. There may not be 10,000 feet in this particular game, but at least there's toes. Okay, Zoun. What do you do, right? Like, how do you climb back into the seat here when you're... Oh, no blink done yet. No, there is. I was gonna say, he does have blink. How do you get back in this type of game? Like, it kind of feels like you're behind in almost every way. You need to take the correct fight, but that's exactly where these Phoenixes are so scary. Not only can the Prism get sniped, but all of the Immortals can be lifted. ShoWTimE has the perfect deflection force. He needs to try and just build up his unit count, but obviously he knows that the opponent's unit count is likely already bigger than his. So really we're waiting until ShoWTimE decides to engage. And while he may have proxied a robot facility earlier... Ooh, now this could be a start of something. Okay. Well, you know what? I say that. The Stalkers are still here. And not all of them will be able to make their way home. Some of the Phoenixes died. But we've kind of moved past the face of the Phoenix. At this point, yeah, we're getting into Archon territory. Now, you can't lift up Archons. So the Immortals and the Prism were really the main targets for those Phoenixes. And while there are still some of them available, they become less and less important over time. Yeah, ShoWTimE very well known for the macro game, right? And even though he opened up aggressively in this particular match, he will be very happy to just macro his way up. PvP can be hyper-aggressive, but it can also be these standoffs, I suppose, where both players really try to go and commit to a push, but then the opponent doesn't want to do it, and they know that the defender's advantage of, well, the shield batteries, for example, is absolutely massive, so you don't really want to commit. This is now a real vulnerability, though, for ShoWTimE. Zoun has seen it. If there ever was a time to strike, it would be now. He knows that the Protoss army in blue is currently in the wrong location. Moving in with the Stalkers, a surgical strike. This can be the beginning of something big. Nicely done. Yep. Moves in, forces the console on the 4th base, moves back. This did just slow down ShoWTimE quite a lot. Zoun needs to be able to win this game for his team to have a chance in the Team League. ShoWTimE decides to go into the Glaive Adept. Still very useful, of course, in this matchup as a core unit as well. He made so many Adepts earlier on that he's thinking about just giving it a shot. And now he's seen the size of that Protoss army in red. Decides to cancel it. In the meantime, though, there's a 4th Nexus building up north. Maybe this passivity here from ShoWTimE is gonna bite him. Because I kind of feel like he was making all the right choices previously, but now Zoun has caught up in the supply count. I'm still preferring this situation for ShoWTimE a little bit, but not nearly as much as I thought earlier. The unit composition here that Zoun is building up is really sweet. Couple of Zealots here, working away at the probe, working away at the pylon, forcing the console on the Nexus. Not bad. It's one of those awkward games, though, where neither player really is building up a large worker count or really anything like it. So I'm squeezing out a round of probes here. But this has kind of felt like an extended 2-base all-in ever since, like, minute 4. Both players really just on their toes the entire time. And we're gonna max out eventually, it seems. But this is just one gigantic standoff. Very odd in a game of StarCraft, actually, to have this much passivity. Although it does make a lot of sense. They really just want to nip away at the opponent rather than truly fight it. We do have the Phoenixes sniping a few units. Ooh, do we commit to the fight? Keep in mind that Archons deal splash damage, so Zealots charging at Archons is where they usually truly shine, like the Archons, that is. The Zealots just die so quick. Not a good fight here for ShoWTimE, honestly. The start of this engagement is not good for the German. Nicht geil. Not even a little bit affengeil, if I'm being honest with you. Ooh, this concave could be big, actually. Zoun coming in from a lot of sides, although a ton of his units are also preoccupied. We have the Immortals plowing through a lot. ShoWTimE here a little bit distracted. Immortals do back up. And this is now a full line war between the two players, but Zoun's engagement is just so much better. Wow, I really thought that ShoWTimE had this in the bag. Ooh, Stalkers blink forward. They will shut down the Prism. Now the Phoenixes come home to lift up some of the Immortals, but I think it may just be a little bit too late. Excellent game right here by Zoun, who does manage to complete the comeback and gets a point on the board for ONSYDE. Okay, and that takes us to the Celestial Enclave. I feel like my new settings are less celestial and more like airport announcement, you know? I'm not entirely sure about I gotta tweak the settings a little bit. It's less angelic. Actually, I know a lot of airports around the world have stopped doing announcements. The best choice ever, man. This is something you're gonna be able to tell your grandchildren, that whenever you would go anywhere, whenever you would go to an airport, the announcements would just be called out. Even though everybody's wearing headphones and it's impossible to understand what anybody is saying over the announcements anyway. Yeah, much better. Much better to not be reminded that you're in an airport every 30 seconds. Alright, let's see. We have some engineering bays over here. Ryung actually just being a massive prick here, okay? This is what it's like to be a competitive StarCraft player in 2026. You have to be as much a prick as possible. Classic has to go for his in-base expansion. Just let the man escape. Just let him make an expansion, dude. Okay, well, it is what it is. One thing to keep in mind, of course, is that Ryung is tying up a ton of minerals as well into his own engineering base here. Now he cancels them, so he gets the majority of his money back. But this is the real irony with engineering bay blocks. Like, yeah, you delay your opponent's expansion, but also you delay your own expansion because the minerals that you spent on delaying your opponent's expansion would have gone to your own expansion. You know what I mean? So, good luck. I guess the main downside right now, though, and this is kind of clever, Ryung now knows that the opponent has gone for the in-base expansion, right? So he's gone for this one, and it's only got 5 mineral fields and a single Vespian geyser. This is the sheepdog strategy. Ryung effectively barked at the Protoss player. Woof! Not over here. Woof! Not over there. So that leaves only one viable choice. And it's the baddest expansion. The worst one. You don't want this one as Protoss. This is the back pocket, you know? Like, this is where you want to take it later on in the game. Usually Protoss takes this one first, then that one, sometimes even the bottom right one, and then eventually we head on over in this direction. Alright. Ooh. He also, well, I missed it. For some reason, ended up killing one of his opponent's stalkers. Classic, who played a phenomenal game against Maru. Struggling so far. But remember, when behind. But remember, when behind. How did Grandma's adage go again? What did Grandma tell you? When behind, bring out the invisible men. Bring out the dark shrine. It's something Protoss players... Really? There's no way. There's no way. Ryung. Classic just thinks himself so sneaky. There's no way. The probe just went into the base, planted out a pylon, and then YOLO'd into the marine to present itself as some main target to die. There's no way. It actually worked. Oh, wait. Nope. Ryung backing off. Okay. Ryung, though, is gonna potentially just see... the Dark Shrine. Nope. Is this going to work here for Classic? Dark Templar have been the stars of the show so far. Man, probes are just sacrificing themselves just so the invisible men can work. You gotta warp in more. I don't think you just warp in one. I know it's expensive, I know it's committed, but you're so far behind. Yeah, just save them up for a little bit. I know it feels wrong. Nah, I think we gotta wait. Okay, does Ryung notice the little blur? The blur is very difficult to spot. It's one of the reasons, actually, that pro players generally tend to... I think he noticed. He sees! Or is he just doing an SCV pool right at this point in time? I don't know. Anyways, it's one of the reasons why pro players tend to go for low graphic settings, because it will still show you all of the essentials, like, for example, the DT blur. I don't really like this idea, though, very much for Ryung. I mean, it may work out, but he needs detection, right? So he's got one scan over here, but he's doing an SCV pool. Just one Dark Templar at a time should do really nicely. Oh, well, I mean, you gotta keep warping them in. Yeah, wait for the scan to run out and then go and move down to the low ground. Go, 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 Classic. There's no way you're gonna be able to keep that Nexus alive. 19 SCVs have died, by the way, in this game already. So many shield batteries up on the high ground. Do we have another scan available, Ryung? If we're gonna have one, we should use it immediately. I don't think he's got it, though. The one landed Viking putting in so much work, but there we have it. Classic is gonna be able to get the final point on the board. The DTs, man, coming in clutch. Now, there is actually an extra game in this folder. I don't know why. But I guess they always play the 2v2s or something? I guess they do. All games or all 6 games are cast? Ah. Now, it turns out that the second 2v2 was also played in this particular game. So, we already have TMM winning the match. But we get one additional 2v2 for the fans. And you know what? I can hardly complain. As we find ourselves on the map Rohana. Do I still add the... I may as well add the scoreboard, I guess. There we go. Spotting right here in the upper left. Playing in red, we have ShoWTimE. Right below him, playing in orange, we have HeroMarine. A German party. All the way, though, on the other side of the map, we have the Koreans. First off, we're looking inside of the main base of Zoun. And then his ally, we have Maru. Okay. You know what? There's once more Dark Templar potential. The Dark Templar are actually putting in a lot of work today. Yeah, base racing. So this is one of those things, right? Terrans have become very fond lately of pulling the boys and going for a base race. But base racing with 2 command centers against some Protoss that has Dark Templar is just a disaster. Because you have very few scans available. You don't make a Raven with that type of strat. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. So Protoss just, yeah, sends in 1 Dark Templar at a time. And then when the scan ultimately gets used and the Dark Templar dies, you send another Dark Templar. And then when the next scan gets used, you send in another Dark Templar. And by the time that Terran ultimately gets to your main base, the DTs likely have already killed the bulk of the army. It is really neat. You do need to get a little bit lucky, I suppose, there as the Protoss. But you know what? This is a real-time strategy game. The fog of war exists for a reason. You gotta take some chances sometimes. And it allows for games that we have seen so far. Alright, now we have a mirrored production tab. Both teams doing the exact same thing. Rohana, by the way, is very large. So this map has individual main bases. It's not a shared main base, but then the natural low ground area is indeed shared. This is like a communal area, okay? They have like a communal bathroom, but then they have their separate places. They share a kitchen, they share a bathroom. Maybe you don't like it, but look, this is just the state of things. Sometimes you gotta share the bedroom too, man. On other maps, other 2v2 maps that is. You just share everything. StarCraft players hate sharing. I think we all know that. Alright, Stargate build here for ShoWTimE. I feel like action is always... Alright, always very much so on the Protoss players in this type of game. Terran just doesn't seem to have a ton of variety. Yeah, you can start off with a couple of different units. But ultimately, you pretty much always end up with Marine Marauder based comps. You can play Terran mech, but... Men with gun, very good. Rohana, of course, the Protoss grandma from the Legacy of the Void campaign. Although I always thought actually that name was spelled with double N. Am I wrong? Rohana. No, I think it's Rohana. The racist grandma from the Legacy of the Void campaign. The one that talks about the Terran and their orifices. She's not wrong, dude. Orifices are disgusting. Ooh, we're gonna dive the units on top of one another. Adept also does join in the fray. A full skirmish between everybody. A little bit of a slow reaction there from Maru, I will say, but ultimately it does not matter, as now the Oracle is gonna be able to finish the job. It's actually probably one of my favorite moments in the entire StarCraft 2 storyline. When Rahana goes off about humans and their orifices. It's very funny to me. Although she doesn't mean it to be funny. She's just being a little bit racist. Anyways, or speciesist, I guess, would be the better way to label that. We've got ourselves a bit of variety though right now, as again, the early game units are just being thrown at one another. There is a bunch of damage dealt. So far, ShoWTimE coming out ahead. But we do get a Phoenix composition now. So ShoWTimE is gonna go for the tried and true build. Maybe not surprising at all. ShoWTimE is always very reliable when it comes to that sort of approach. He does it in 1v1 and 2v2 and everything that he does, it seems. Not a risk taker, that's for sure. I don't think we're gonna be seeing someone like ShoWTimE in the casino, you know? Like, I would be very surprised. So the idea behind the Phoenixes is that you can lift up the opposing player's army, and especially things like siege tanks are main targets. Now, this is HeroMarine going double siege tank production for now, and you know what? Even though usually the mid game is very, very bio-focused, like I was mentioning earlier, this is HeroMarine going full Terran mech, and ShoWTimE going full Skytles. They're going to be using their communal space over here to just turtle up. This base, though, is a tough one. Yeah, easy snipe here for the much more mobile army for Maru and Zoun. Yeah, you can use the Revelation ability. Congratulations. But ultimately, there's not much to do. So, Zoun is going for an expansion of his own. And this is the problem with this much more slow-moving army of our German legends here. They need to go. Like, they can't really sit back. They will get outproduced in the long run if they sit back for a few more minutes. So this is a very early push though. I like the snipe there on the Raven. A couple of auto turrets do get dropped down, but not the end of the world. Third Stargate added into the mix as well. Nexus will restart yet again for ShoWTimE. We already have a third command center as well set up right now for Maru. But this is important. I think it's so tempting here for the team in red to just sit back and relax. Phoenixes will snatch up a bunch of the Stalkers that decided to aggressively blink forward. HeroMarine leapfrogging the tanks. The ones in the back are being unsieged and moved further forward. But this army here doesn't really look that big to me. As long as the siege tanks are countered, I mean, it's much easier said than done. But there's really not much remaining. Do we have charge done yet? No, there's no yet. No, there's no charge here. Zoun is getting it right now, but he needs a lot more units. If he got charge here, I think that would be perfect. Stimpack, though, is seconds away from finishing. It's going to make Maru's units way more powerful. And right now, I mean, this is a really tough position to break. Team Red has wedged itself into a really perfect spot. Man, these siege tanks on siege scares me a little bit. HeroMarine trying to be brave. He knows that he got a bit of an anchor. Moves the ones in the front. Sieges them up. Moves the one from the back a little bit further forward. Sieges them up too. Charge right now, though, on the horizon. Actually a viable strat. Zoun got recalled to watch that third base of his, but it now opens the door for the siege tanks to move even further. Triple Phoenix production. There's now enough Phoenixes to basically lift up all the units in blue. I love the Hellbats here as well in the front, but here we go again. The men with arms, the men with guns moving forward, trying their absolute best to just shut all of this down. This is the commitment that Team Blue was waiting for. And I think just enough Terran units are indeed out to ultimately shove those units away. Yeah, not a lot of Phoenixes died. 6 of them in total. But HeroMarine got pushed all the way back to his side of the map. And that's a big deal. Because now suddenly we get this tide here. This blue tide moving across the map. This expansion on the low ground is likely going to find its demise yet again. And at that point, we're talking 2 bases. 8.5 minutes in for both players in the upper left. You just run out of cash. Zoun has got this base up and running yet again. Maru does have a little bit of mining happening over here, but at least it's a location where you could transfer SCVs to. The Hellion run by could be nice, but there's actually not that many workers to kill. 2 bases go down. 2 bases go down at the top of the map. And that means that we end up with a situation now as the dust is settling, where Team Blue has 6 mining bases and Team Red has 4. Two is on the horizon as well for Maru. Still a while away, but 2-2 on Marine Marauder base, the base unit compositions is absolutely massive. Ghost now also coming out in large enough numbers to really be important. Imagine clumping these Phoenixes up together and then them getting EMP'd. It's not an interaction that is commonly used in 1v1, but one that is massively problematic, because these Phoenixes are spellcasters. Now this is really nice though here for ShoWTimE. Just like what he could have done in his PvP that we saw earlier, he now does decide to commit with the Phoenixes before the end of the game. That's nice. And this is a tremendous amount of damage done. Oy, 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 oy. Okay. ShoWTimE just swooped in and killed like 40 workers. Maybe not quite 40, but close to it. Blue Flame being used over here at the bottom as HeroMarine also likewise gets a bunch of kills. He's now securing a new expansion of his own. Nexus here, 3rd attempt by ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE would love to make the switch on over to carriers eventually, but you do really need like at least 3 bases up and running, preferably 4. Now it's up to Maru and Zoun though to push forward and get some work done. It's a scary army. There's so many siege tanks available. The Blue Flame is also terrifying. No ghosts over here in the mix. This is a mispositioning here. It's gonna allow ShoWTimE to swoop in and effectively kill most of these units. Oy, oy, oy. That's yet again a very large chunk of Zoun's units getting destroyed. Bunch of Zealots will also not be able to make their way home. Maru wants to move forward, but he sees the tanks moving in position, and as soon as the tanks siege up, there's just really no way that this type of army can engage. Phoenixes are crazy units, man. When they get rolling, it just seems so hard to stop them. I really like Phoenixes. They've always been one of my favorite units in all of StarCraft. They're so freaking cool. Blue Flame yet again. Another one of my favorites. The Hellions go in and roast another mineral line. Maru and Zoun have been knocked back to the Stone Age, but they do have a lot of units. Now, don't walk them into the meat grinder, Maru. Careful. We do have a tactical nuke, by the way, being used over here. Maru decides to nuke a single tank. He was probably hoping to maybe get the tank and then some. Okay. Ooh, there we go. Some EMPs do end up landing there onto the clumped up Phoenixes. Still though, there's so many Phoenixes now that it doesn't really matter. Another tactical nuke being used here by Maru. At least he's researching it. So, Zoun and Maru are in a lot of trouble, but they do have the superior economy. And that is something we've seen so many times as they decide to commit. Is this the moment? Oy, 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 the siege tanks are mostly unprotected. Where did those Phoenixes go? The Phoenixes are off to the south. And this may have just been the one shot, one opportunity that they had to reduce the siege tank count. EMP goes down. Oy, 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 all of the Phoenixes just got EMP'd. So that means that they can kill the flying units. But the Marauders, the Marines, the Zealots, they can keep running. It allows Maru and Zoun right now to get on top of the production. A bunch of Archons are joining in too. There are so many Phoenixes, but they are, until they get energy, effectively paperweights. Like, they have nothing going for them. And with that EMP, wow, Maru and Zoun are going to be able to get a point on the board. Now, ultimately, for the end result of this particular series, it does not matter. But it's nice to see them going down with at least a victory there. A 4-2 win here for, what was it? The 3 Musketeers? That's right. GG.